There are various factors which affect the growth of human population. One of these factors is the population policy of the country. As we know that there are some regions and countries which are overpopulated, and while some other regions and countries have much less population as per their need. On completion of this lesson, you should be able to understand the various population policies of the world, understand the chain policies discouraging population growth, and also understand the policies encouraging population growth. Play a critical role in the achievement of social, economic and environmental development. Changes in the growth, age structure and the distribution of the population determine and influence the implementation and achievement of the goals and targets ensure universal access to services in a context of rapid population growth. Another may see the realization of demographic dividend derived from the decline of fertility and mortality. Whether demographic changes can be harnessed for the success and sustainability of development stages at the international, regional and national levels is determined by the implementation of effective population policies that are rights based, evidence informed and gender responsive. In this context, the need to monitor population policies and programs remains crucial. The systematic monitoring of population policies at the international level began after the World Population Plan of Action. The first global intergovernmental instrument on population policy was adopted in the World Population Conference held in 1974. Subsequent population conferences include the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development, which we call it as ICPD, held in 1994, have emphasized the need to monitor population policies and programs. Various internationally agreed development plans, including the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, have also included a number of targets and indicators to monitor population related policies and programs. The size of population, its structure, composition and growth rate, as well as the migration pattern are closely influenced by the population policy of the respective government. Each country has its own population policy. These policies range from encouragement of high fertility to varying degrees of discouragement. Some of the developed countries follow the policy of slow growth, also known as the policy of pronatalism. The countries following the policy of slow growth of population include Canada, United States, Australia, Japan and Singapore. In these countries, the population growth rate is below 1%. This means that their populations are near the replacement level and the birth and death rates are almost all equal. In other words, the next generation of children will be about the same size as the parental generation. According to this, the population policies in some of the Afro-Asian and Latin American countries are to reduce the size of population, while in Germany, Russia, Italy, France and UK, etc., where the population growth rate is around or below 0.5%, the governments are adopting the policies of population increase. The population policies of the different countries have been formulated to achieve either of the following objectives. 1. To reduce the population growth rate not necessarily to 0. 2. To stabilize the population by achieving a 0 population growth rate. And 3. To achieve a negative rate of growth with a view to reduce the size of population. There is a consensus among the scholars of population geography and demography that the only preventive way of achieving any of the above objectives would be to reduce the birth rate instead of permitting the death rate to increase. There is also a consensus that rapid growth of population in the developing countries needs to be curbed, and for this purpose limiting the births is the best policy. As stated earlier, the developing countries are mostly following the policies to restrict the growth of population. In fact, during the last 4 decades, numerous countries have adopted policies aimed at reducing population growth. Economic incentives for smaller families in the Republic of Korea and the Philippines, financial rewards for sterilization in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, the preferential treatment for small family mothers in government hospitals of Singapore, availability of free abortion facilities on demand in Tunisia, Cuba, China, India and Singapore, legalization of abortion on medical grounds in a vast majority of less developed countries are some of the policies which are discouraging for the rapid growth of population. In most of the developing countries, the techniques for promoting family planning and birth control vary from supplying contraceptives and information in some nations to much more direct involvement in others. It is encouraging to note that an overwhelming majority of the population of the developing countries prefer a decline in the rate of natural increase of population. In most of the less developed countries, the governments have come out with a variety of policies together with mortality control, fertility control, family and individual well-being. It is widely believed that the rate of natural increase can be reduced only if all these measures are combined and the standard of living improves. It is interesting to note that most of the developing countries have fixed the time-bound targets of rates of natural increase by 2000 AD. For example, Kenya has a target of less than 3%, that is about 2.8%, Mauritius 1.1%, Egypt 1.6%, Tunisia 1.4%, China 0.9% and Sri Lanka 1%. The Indonesian government, with the help of United Nations and the World Bank and the World Health Organization, built more than 3,000 clinics in Java and Bali. Mass media such as radio, television and newspapers were and still are used to promote the acceptance of the small family and to draw people to the clinics. In Java and Bali, the first acceptors were older women with many children, but later, as the idea diffused, younger women who wanted to restrict their pregnancies were drawn into the program. At present, the growth of population of Indonesia is 1.5% per annum. In some countries, the government's effort to reduce the birth rate have moved beyond voluntary family planning into various forms of coercion. In Singapore, for example, where space is extremely limited, there have been heavy financial penalties for parents who have had fertility rate is well below the replacement level. The Singapore government is now encouraging the better educated women to have more children. In India, a voluntary family planning policy has been adopted right from the beginning of 1960s, but a tough sterilization policy adopted in 1976-77 under the administration of Indira Gandhi could not bring the desired results. The rigid policy was resisted by the masses because India has a democratic form of government and public feelings can be expressed through free elections. Objections to the tough policy: most of the political analysts believe the incumbent party, which was the Congress, lost the 1977 election mainly because of the widespread belief, particularly on the part of Muslims minority, that people were being sterilized against their will. Subsequently, Indian administration returned to less coercive methods of encouraging family planning. During the last 4 decades, there have been some dramatic decreases in birth rates in different parts of India. But fertility rates differ from region to region, occupation to occupation, and family income. For the country as a whole, the rate of population increase is still 1.7%. If this rate continues and China's rate continues to fall, India could become the most populous country in the world by the middle of the 21st century. The demographic characteristics and the population policy of China are very important to examine, as about 21% of the world population lives in this country. Moreover, one of the greatest reductions in fertility rates through government policy has occurred in China within the last decade. So, it provides an example of the role of government policy in affecting birth rates. In general, it is the developed countries in which the population growth is slow, and in some regions of France, Germany, Luxembourg, Denmark, Russia, Austria, Finland, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Spain and UK, it is showing a negative growth rate. Usually, the richer the country, the slower the population growth. It has also been established that development is the best contraceptive. Looking at the declining growth rate of population, some of the European countries have also started taking positive steps to increase their population. France, for example, grants substantial payments and services to parents to help in child rearing. Eastern Europe is much more active in encouraging growth. 3 children per family has become the adopted goal of several Eastern Bloc countries that fear for national survival if present trends continue. Parental subsidies, housing priorities and generous maternity leaves at full salaries are among the inducements for multiple child families. Interestingly enough, in Romania, contraceptives are banned and abortions permitted only on doctors' orders in the hope that birth rates can be increased. In general, despite some short-term successes, the Europeans of East and West have ignored both blandishment and restrictions. The consequences will only gradually emerge over the next several decades. In Soviet Union, in 1950s and 60s, the birth rate decreased significantly. The low birth rate resulted in the reduced number of youth entering the labor force and the armed forces. This shortage in labor created many socio-economic problems. Consequently, a policy was adopted to encourage large-sized families. In Russia, especially the European Russia, where the rate of natural increase of population in 2001 was 0.2%. The government is trying to create a favorable atmosphere for high birth rate through incentives and publicity. The Mother Lenin Award was introduced in Soviet Union as early as 1970s. This award, carrying a handsome cash, a car and a certificate, used to be given to a mother who gave birth to 12 children. Most of the West European countries have no official population policy other than the pro-natalist policy. In the UK, it was in the 1974 that contraceptives and abortions received official recognition. In most of the Catholic countries, birth control measures have remained illegal, though late marriage, illegal abortions, rhythm methods, etc. have helped these countries in keeping their growth rates low. In France, Belgium and Netherlands, until recently, dissemination of family planning materials and information was hampered by laws. France legalized contraceptives in 1960s. The birth control devices are still legal in Ireland, Spain and Portugal. Italy has legalized the pill for medical purposes. It was in 1975 that new laws authorized the government to promote family planning in Italy. Australia and New Zealand have considered themselves as the underpopulated countries. The policies of these governments have been pro-natalist and pro-immigration. A policy to have zero growth rate of population has been adopted by these countries. Japan, Singapore, China and South Korea are the only countries in Asia which have been successful in reducing their birth rates to the level of developed countries, largely by legalizing abortion. The population policy of Japan, adopted in 1950, strongly discouraged a family with more than 2 children. In some of the African countries, namely Congo, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Gabon, Gambia, Mali, Guinea, Togo and Guinea-Bissau, the governments have adopted the policies to increase population. This policy in these developing countries is based on the belief that continued population growth is the key to economic development. In the opinion of the formulators of this policy, a youth population is necessary to develop the countries of Africa, Asia and Latin America. Some African countries do not advocate birth control because poor living conditions adversely affect both infant mortality and fertility. In many areas, fecundity is low because of poor nutrition or disease and is considered to be a great problem than high fertility. Most of the Latin American countries, being Catholics in their faith, have been very reluctant to accept population growth measures. At present, the Latin American countries are propagating family planning mainly on health and welfare grounds and as a means of reducing illegal abortions. Chile, Colombia, Caribbean and the Central American countries have now adopted clearly anti-natalist policy. Brazil and Argentina still have policies encouraging high population growth. Apart from these two countries, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, Vietnam, Pakistan, Iran, Nepal and Bangladesh have also well-designed population policies to reduce the birth rates. Countries of the Southwest Asia and the Central Asian republics like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan are encouraging the population growth. Afghanistan, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon and Syria have also gone for family planning. Israel continues to favor rapid growth of population. Saudi Arabia has outlawed the import of contraceptives. Coming to the population policy of India, the idea of development of a national population policy dates back to the periods of months before the attainment of independence in 1946, when the Bo'hre Committee submitted its report. This submission of report was followed by the launch of the family planning program in 1952, which coincided with the launch of the nationwide community development program. First statement regarding the national population policy was issued by the government after careful review of the demographic trends and of the family planning program in 1976. This was followed by the 1977 policy statement on the family welfare program. It was in 1983 that the government adopted the National Health Policy, which emphasized the need for securing the small family norm through voluntary efforts and moving towards the goal of population stabilization. The present Parliament underscored the need for a separate national population policy while adopting the health policy. Accordingly, the National Development Council, which we usually call as NDC, appointed a committee on population in 1991 under the chairmanship of Karunakarn, which submitted its report in 1993, recommending the formulation of a national population policy. Subsequently, an expert group headed by M.S. Swaminathan was appointed to prepare the draft of a national population policy. The National Population Policy, which we usually call as NPP, finally came into force in 2000. The policy states that the immediate objective of the NPP 2000 is to address the unmet needs for contraception, healthcare infrastructure and health personnel, and to provide integrated service delivery for basic reproductive and child health care. The medium term objective was to bring the total fertility rate, which we usually call as TFR, to replacement levels by the year 2010 through vigorous implementation of intersectoral operational strategies. Coming to the long term objective, to achieve a stable population by 2045 at a level consistent with the requirements of sustainable economic growth, social development and environmental protection. As a result of the government's efforts, the successes achieved are listed here. The total fertility rate or TFR has declined from 2.9 in 2005 to 2.2 in 2017. 25 out of 37 states and union territories have already achieved replacement level fertility of 2.1 or less. The decadal growth rate has declined from 21.54% in 1999-2000 to 17.64% during 2001-2011. The crude birth rate or the CBR has declined from 23.8 to 20.2 from 2005 to 2017. The teenage birth rate has halved from 16% to 8%. In many countries, the main thrust of programmatic action when population growth is considered excessively rapid has taken the form of family planning programs that seek to facilitate access to modern methods of birth control. When development and institutional conditions, especially those affecting the status of women, are favorable, such programs, in some cases accompanied by strong administrative pressures, appear to have accelerated the decline of fertility toward replacement levels or in some cases even below such levels. Concern with rapid population, aging and eventual population decline caused by such low fertility in some instances has elicited population policies seeking to stimulate birth rates. Such pro-natalist policies thus far have proven at best moderately effective.